everybody, it's me Colton with Empty Popcorn Bucket Productions. I was going to create this whole elaborate intro where I discuss each movie from the franchise, and I do want to eventually go through and rank and review this series, but that will have to wait. I have it all written, but it's the summertime. Movies are coming out weekly. There's honestly two movies that came out today, which was what we'll be talking about, Mission Impossible and Lilo and Stitch, which I will be reviewing and seeing next week. But before I do jump in, I do want to say that the Mission Impossible movies are honestly some of my favorite action movies. I love Tom Cruise. I think he does a lot of great work, and honestly, this is probably the best series that I've seen him in. And he does good in Top Gun. He's really good in Minority Report. There's a lot of great movies that Tom Cruise is in, but out of all the movies that I feel like he puts the most passion in, it's definitely the Mission Impossible movies. I will mention in this video my favorite Mission Impossible movie. Like I mentioned, I will eventually go back and review the Mission Impossible movies and rank them like I've done with other franchises in the past. But let's jump into my review for Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. So this is a follow-up, and this is the 8th entry in the Mission Impossible franchise. This directly follows up to Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning, which when I first saw it, I loved it. I thought it was fantastic, and there's a lot of things that, looking back when I rewatched it, there's the first 45 minutes to an hour is a little messy, but it definitely picks up. And I feel like with this movie, it's similar, but from a full perspective, by the end of the movie, things that occur within the first 30 to 40 minutes of the movie, I definitely forgive. But it does feel a little clunky, a little messy. But once you get out of that zone, the movie really picks up and has some of the craziest action sequences, stunt sequences, and just sequences that definitely had me on the edge of my seat. And I was pretty hyped for the entirety of the movie. Tom Cruise takes it again. He is phenomenal in this movie. He does a lot of freaking amazing things. And there's a way the plot threads itself together that I felt that was very satisfying. Haley Atwell also, she returns from the previous movie and she does fantastic. I love Haley Atwell. She does really good in a lot of things I've seen her in. Simon Pegg's great. I can't think of her name, apologize, but she plays Mantis in Guardians, and her character in this movie is also really good. Another really good point of this movie, and even from the previous one, is the villain. I feel like the villain he's pretty menacing, pretty scary, also crazy, and almost to the same levels of Philip Seymour Hoffman's character in Mission Impossible 3. And there's a lot of very close connected things that they explain in this movie that I was like, okay, I can see why their motivations are pretty the same. That I thought was pretty awesome, pretty great. Another really standout element of this movie is the way they called back to the entirety of the franchise. This movie was created in a way to be like a culmination of the entire franchise from the 1996 movie all the way up until now. And I feel like it does it in a way that felt appropriate, though there are a few moments that are very on the nose. The elements that they incorporate from callbacks to the entire franchise, I felt were fitting, and some were pretty satisfying, and I'm glad they included this in the movie. There was a certain character that he hasn't been seen in the franchise since the first one, and I felt like how they included his character was very awesome, and I really enjoyed it. It sort of reminded me of a good example of two bad examples. And those culmination films I'm talking about is Star Wars Rise of Skywalker and Jurassic World Dominion. Two movies where it had legacy characters, though this is an ongoing franchise. I felt like the way that they did it in those movies were too much nostalgia bait and not enough focus onto what the franchise really is. And I felt like Mission Impossible does this really well. And I felt like that was probably one of the stronger elements, though that's coming from someone who loves all the movies and love experiencing them in theaters. And so from someone who doesn't really have an outside knowledge of the Mission Impossible franchise, that might make them feel like, oh, this is just like a nostalgia bait kind of movie. And I feel like there's moments, but from overall perspective, I feel like it's not directly that as compared to those movies that I previously mentioned. And I mean, I wouldn't say I loved, I actually enjoyed Jurassic World Dominion. Star Wars Rise of Skywalker, we'll get to that when I eventually do my Star Wars sequels. I hate that movie a lot. But overall, this movie is phenomenal. I very much liked it, and I wouldn't say, I'm still debating what my thoughts are going to be for my full rating. But for right now, I'll be safe to say, I mean, I put Dead Reckoning as 5 out of 5 even after my rewatch because of like the entirety of the rest of the movie besides its flaws. And then Fallout is my number one Mission Impossible movie, and this still doesn't reach the heights, though there's elements of this movie that are come very, very neck and neck. So I would say I would give it a 5 out of 5, but it is like a hair or two behind Mission Impossible Fallout, which is my favorite. I saw that movie like 2 or 3 times in theaters, and I still absolutely love that movie every time I watch it. Tell me what you guys think of this movie. Let me know if you're going to go see it. I 100% recommend it, especially go see it in theaters. I'm definitely a theater advocate. Movie theaters are awesome. I actually saw this in IMAX, which go see it in IMAX if you have the opportunity. But if not, check it out. I definitely recommend it. Like mentioned previously, I am doing a review for the live action Lilo and Stitch, so stay tuned for that. And I have a few other movie reviews coming up. I also want to announce a little project that I'm sort of working on. We'll see if it actually comes to fruition. I want to try to watch all the Pixar movies. I feel like that's something I've wanted to do for a while, especially with the new Elio coming out. But I also want to watch How to Train Your Dragon, and I have too much time and not enough time at the same time. And we'll see if any of that gets done. But until then, please go like, subscribe, and share this video. That is your mission if you choose to accept it. And I hope you enjoyed this video and have a wonderful day. Bye.